Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galetti, along with Ed Nunez, Alton Ioane, and the crew in the house. And we're going to talk summer sports with you as we are in between the seasons, Ed, and still a lot going on. I know off the air we were just talking about something, the Senior Olympics. So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, they've been here for almost, today's the last day. So it's been a whirlwind of activity, archery, track and field, basketball, badminton, volleyball, pickleball, which I've had at Manzano Mesa Multi-Generational Center, both inside and out. And it was funny because I was doing some announcing at the convention center for awards the other day for badminton, right? And some lady says, no, it's badminton. Okay, badminton. So it kind of made me laugh because I've never heard badminton.
I hadn't either.
Yeah,
but
but she wanted to pronounce it, you know, so, you know, they're, but what I think what's amazed me is I got to hand out some medals yesterday for the 90-year-old division in pickleball. And I still get that feeling because, you know, you played and coached and you've been out there and you get that feeling even at that age group there. I'm thinking, man, these are 90-year-old man and a woman, doubles partners, and they're still out there at 90 years old. So that tells me a lot. There was a 103-year-old lady.
I was going to ask
that ran
you
the 100
bring
meters.
that up. How amazing was that?
She only started running 3 years ago. Yeah, Alden's got the video, so Alden,
we'll have
keep
a video
in
pop
a second
up
here,
in
but
just a second.
But think about that.
Sorry to interrupt there, but I was thinking of her, and what an amazing story that is. Started
running at 100. Now, the only problem she had was she said that she couldn't see, you know, vision, of course, you know, going a little bit at 103. She had a problem seeing the white chalked line, but she finished, got the gold medal. There was another story of a senior on Sunday. He almost died in a fire when he was 6 in 1945. And his mother perished in this big tent fire at a circus. And he said he heard the doctor saying outside the tent, you know, outside the oxygen room, that this guy's not going to make it. And he said in his mind, yes, I am. So he's participating. And you know what? He survived cancer, the fire. He survived so many things. It was just an amazing story. It really was.
Yeah, that is amazing. But, you know, it's another one of those great events. You know, obviously Proview's been bringing you a lot of it, but it's one of those events that, you know, it kind of brings a smile to everybody.
I was at Rudy Davalos last week. So, you know, they've got me at Manzano because I've got pickleball where I work at. That's my station. But they had me at the convention center announcing awards, and I went to Rudy Davalos last week and watched a basketball game between 75 and 80-year-old women that went into overtime.
Well, I thought you were going to tell me that you were talking with Rudy Davalos.
No, the Rudy Davalos.
That's a story in itself.
Rudy Davalos, one of the great guys there was.
Right.
One of the best ADs we ever had here.
Right.
Just great. I still hear that Texas accent when he was on the radio. I still hear that. But I was at the Rudy Davalos Center, and there's a game that went into overtime. And this grandmother who had to be, there's the video. Let's take a look at that, the 100 meters.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Looks like Alton Ioane out there on the track, but that's not him. Yeah. No, filming it, not running it. This is amazing. Look at this. 103 years old. Yeah, that's incredible. And that great work by our camera guys. Dana Childs, big shout out to him, Josh Brown, Alton Ioane for covering all these events. And is that the second leg, I think, Alden?
This is the 100.
This is the 100 meters that we were talking about, I think.
Wow.
I mean, there's guys that were like 70 years old running as fast at times as the kids in high school do.
Wow.
Okay, did you hear what he just said?
Alden just
so
said,
our great producer, Alton Ioane, said there's guys in their 70s, which I'm smiling from ear to ear, that are running times that kids in high school run. So City Councilor Brad Winter, who's in fantastic shape, did the javelin and pole vault, I believe. And I saw the counselor about a month ago at the New Mexico Games, and this guy is still, and people may see that and say, oh God, they're barely moving, but think about that. Now, I'm 57 and my knees are done, right? But I'm looking at these athletes, I'm thinking, gosh, what can I get into? I can't play basketball anymore. I played basketball, but I can't do that. But is there another, table tennis. So I was at the convention center for table tennis. And my goodness, you should see how good these table tennis people are. Holy cow. I mean, they're really good. They play deep off the table. The serve is the right way. You know, they play by the rules. So I think all week for at least for our department, the Department of Senior Affairs, it's been, and then the weather. It was 82 degrees on Sunday for pickleball outside, which you couldn't ask for any better weather. Got a breeze out there. In fact, on Saturday night up at the outside courts, they said they had to put jackets on. It was a little cool. So that you didn't get the 98, 94 degree weather that you usually pounded with in June. So I thought for everything that could have gone right as far as weather and everything. Now there's some glitches behind the scene organization, you know, little glitches here and there. But as far as everything else went, I thought the senior games for the Department of Senior Affairs, and I'm gonna, you know, be tout the department. I work for it. I thought it went very, very well, and plus the economic impact of people going to restaurants, people touring Old Town. Maybe they'll come back and, you know, spend money here. So I thought the economic impact was big as well.
Let's talk about something else that's becoming big, and that's the New Mexico United. They had a tie against the LA Galaxy 2 on Saturday, but they go into FC Dallas and win that match, and they win it in regular time. 2-1 was the final score. After they fell behind, they got a quick goal before halftime, got the goal in the second half, and, you know, just the fan base is unbelievable. I guess the bad news, kind of related and unrelated, because, I mean, you look at Devin Sandoval, former Lobo. This is officially the final week of Lobo men's soccer.
That my wife and I talked about that this morning. United has caught fire. You know, we just saw Adam Deal walk by, and Adam Deal, you know, the voice of United for 1017. I saw him on TV the other night talking to Jared Chester. They had a picture of Adam, and he's talking about New Mexico United. So now my wife asked this. All of a sudden, United, the marketing plan that they have is amazing, right? It's amazing. Now they've talked about their own spot and maybe building them a stadium down the line, but entry into the MLS is $250 million, I believe. Right. And so my wife asked a good question: where's that money going to come from? Now that's down the line. And I think one of the things that you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago was United is definitely captured the city's heart right now. People are wanting to go fly to Minnesota to go watch the next match. They've got a deal going there, and it's amazing to me. So right now, it's on fire. It's something the city's gotten behind. We mentioned the minor league teams of the past, the only ones that really have survived here, the Dukes / Isotopes. Mm-hmm. You know, we've seen the Slam, the Energy, the Chili's, the Six Guns, the Chaparrals, the Thunderbirds, the Slam. We've seen those teams go by the wayside. This team here seems a little bit different as far as the way they're marketing.
It really does, and it's amazing the way that they've been marketed, and it continues to get better and better. I mean, all the way down to the round-trip airfare under $300. I want to say it's $259 or $279 round trip to go to Minneapolis, which normally is at least $500 to $600 round trip.
Think about that.
Whoever's doing this stuff knows what they're doing, and that means that there's a lot of passion with this team. It's a first-year team. And I mean, I've been here, it'll be 11 years come the end of July. I'll have been here 11 years. I've seen at least 4 or 5 teams just come and go.
Just think about, okay, so on the corner of Central and Carlisle, they have their United store. They have their paraphernalia and jerseys that you can buy.
Apparently they were selling out of stuff like crazy last week.
The watch parties. Mm-hmm. Now, Mike Adams mentioned this to me the other day about Mike Adams, the host of On the Mic with Mike Adams on Saturdays, 11 to 1, 6:10 a.m. He mentioned this to me about Joe O'Neill, who you know very well. You know, Joe O'Neill, nobody markets things or gets on things, as far as marketing better. He said it to me the other day. Mike and I had a talk, and he says no one's better at it than Joe O'Neill. And he's right, mm-hmm. right? Because Joe's going to find out what's going to sell in Albuquerque. One of the things that Joe O'Neill said to me when he started the station, he says, Eddie, you don't know how hard it was to start this station in the middle of the country's second greatest recession.
Right.
And so if you look where he's at now, as far as what he is marketing and what's marketed or how he's selling United on the radio, and then we got one of our own, Adam Deal, with a play-by-play. It's on fire right now. It's on fire, and I don't see it going anywhere else but up right now. Now, things change in a market. We've seen that change. So we'll see how is it lasting. Well, I certainly hope so, because it's good for the city economically. It's good that we get behind something as far as, and it's not basketball or baseball or football, right? It's soccer. And maybe someday, maybe you can't rule it out. If this keeps going this way, maybe the University of New Mexico brings back men's soccer. You never know.
You want to know what's amazing, and I've talked about this on ESPN Radio 101.7 The Team on the afternoon show a bunch of times, is the fact that even though the United lost back-to-back matches in league play, they lost to Sacramento at home, they lost to Vegas on the road, then they tied the Galaxy. It doesn't matter, because of what they're doing in these extra games, which is giving them extra play, and they're able to kind of work around their season differently, where, even Adam has said that, hey, once the cup is over, then they can concentrate on the regular season, which, everyone knows soccer, the season goes, about 24 months, it seems like? I mean, it's just, soccer, MLS, you pick a league, those seasons never end, it seems like.
Goes into October, right?
So at least into October. But anyway, long story short, as we get set to go to break, is the fact that they're doing all these matches on the road. And I know, look at like when the Lobos are on the road, unless they're on TV, no one knows they exist. And here, they're on the road, they're on radio, and you have to pay pay-per-view if you want to watch them on TV. And this team is on fire as far as the just excitement level and people talking about them. What gives? I mean, is this what Jeremy Fishbein always said? Hey, this is a soccer market and no one knows it, because this upstart team comes out of nowhere. We've had other soccer teams that played over at St. Pius. They drew 200 maybe fans, right?
That's good.
I mean, look at this.
Good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing what this team is doing. And I know it all has to do about marketing, even though the Soul did a good job marketing.
Yeah, they did. They did. They did, no doubt.
We'll take a break here on the Sports Desk.
Romello will dance in for the touchdown. What an excellent play call by the offensive coordinator there. That was a great. Jackson up the middle. Open receiver. The two in motion. Jackson going to the end zone to Pargo. Touchdown, Rashad Pargo. Back to throw again, and it's Griggs! Freddie's been everywhere as he just took flight like Superman, and Griggs is still on his feet, and he's got one guy to beat. It was the quarterback. First half, but in the second half, they have made plays when they needed to, kept the ball moving, kept the chains moving. Brooks gets free. He's going to have to beat the kicker. I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. Touchdown, Salina. Second counts. He's going to hand it off to Justin Kelly. A lot of room up the middle for Kelly. He's still on his feet, and he is in. Touchdown, Justin. They just get it off to Kelly, still on his feet. Santa Maria, he spins in for the touchdown. Your way in a championship run, and the Gladiators know that more than anybody. Kent has some time, rolling to his right. Cedric Johnson makes the catch. Fantastic catch. Block. The handoff to Romello Brown. Romello still on his feet. Romello is looking for the end zone, and he's got it. Touchdown, Gladiators. There's your dagger.
Welcome back back here to the Sports Desk. Scott Galetti along with Ed Nunez. Alden Iowani is our fine director as we talk sports with you. And we were talking about the New Mexico United. And, you know, what do you think the United needs to do in terms of keeping the momentum? Because I don't think the momentum is going to fall unless I don't even know if they lost every match for the rest of the year if it would fall because of the way they play. Even in games that they've lost, they're exciting. I mean, they have the players up front. They got the defense. They got a great goalie, a keeper, you know, a great keeper in the net. So I mean, this team is exciting to watch. That's the other thing that we fail to talk about. You know, we talk about Peter Trevisani and his marketing, but how about Peter Trevisani, Troy Lesane, putting together an outstanding team?
I think that's a really good point because they did and they have. And also, United.
And they're an expansion team, so
Yeah.
that's hard to do.
All three things together, yes. You know, because think about it, expansion teams struggle, right? They struggle for a while. But think about United in the New Mexico United in the community, right? All these watch parties. They've done an outstanding job of reaching out to the community and getting those fans, getting them involved, getting them behind United to the point, and you never have heard this ever, okay, for any minor league team, and that includes the Dukes. Now, I remember when they played the Dodgers in the strike-filled season in '81, I believe, and Ted Power, Jack Perconte, Rudy Law, they went up there and beat the Dodgers. I remember that. Now, okay, again, that was a long time ago, but I've never heard a minor league team here having, you know, flights to say, let's go watch the Isotopes in Reno or in El Paso, right? I've never seen that, ever. Not for any minor league team. So that's something new there. So when you talk about momentum, they've got it, right? Now, one of the things that you've been around sports a lot, you know, a long time, you know, a lot longer than a lot of people. Now, when you know, I always go back to the natural, right? Now, the Knights and that fictional team, you know, they start losing, right? And, you know, Knights lose. Now, every team goes through some struggles. It's going to be interesting to me to see how people respond when inevitably the United will, you know, drop a few here and there because that's life in the big leagues or in any league. So does that momentum keep going when that happens? That's going to be interesting to see, but I think it will. I really do. I think.
How about a
it'll
what
still go.
if? What if the United goes on and wins the league championship?
Oh man. Oh.
Yeah, that's
Man.
actually possible. And
Man.
none of us actually thought that until they started rolling in this cup and playing MLS teams and such. And yeah, you can say, oh, the Colorado Rapids were bad. They're still a level above the United.
Right.
So for them to go in and do that, I mean, that would be the same equivalent to the Colorado Rockies AA team playing the Isotopes and winning. I'm not going to say the Isotopes against the Rockies because, you know, that has happened in preseason, but I'm saying like a regular season game, you know, it would be like the AA team beating the AAA team.
You know what? What if they did do that? I didn't even think about that, but what if, oh my goodness, you imagine the fire then? I mean, as far as the excitement in the city, which is already at record levels for
I haven't
expansion
even
team.
seen a match, Ed, and just everything that I've heard and like seen clips of and seen highlights of, it's exciting. And see, I go back to covering Devin Sandoval when he was at UNM. You know, I'd go to those matches, and they had the fan club, they had the band, they had people waving flags, they had people doing drums at the men's games. And oh, by the way, that was back when they got about 6,000, 7,000 at their games and packed the place.
Right.
And, you know, so I mean, you know, the people that said, oh, they only got 1,000 last year. Well, they lost their top players because everyone knew that they were gone. I also saw somewhere on a post, and might have been on a message board or it might have been somewhere else, Speak Up or something, where the baseball team has been struggling the last, you know, year, obviously. And this year, you know, well, why is that? Well, Ray Birmingham, I'm sure, had some players that wanted to come here and were worried because I mentioned to you last year, it was April actually, I'm in California and an athletic director from another school says, oh, too bad they're dropping the baseball program. And, you know, word got out that they're on the chopping block, so no one wants to go to play for a lame duck team. And that hurt baseball this year.
Hurt recruiting a little bit.
And the other thing that hurt baseball is waiting so long to re-sign Ray Birmingham to an extension.
Which surprised me because they were, you know, they were negotiating to me, it was a no-brainer, right? It was a no-brainer to bring him back.
You would
but,
think it would be a no-brainer.
that surprised me. And Coach Birmingham, who we need to get in here, I saw him a couple of weeks ago. We need to get him on the show for sure. But
Jason Poole in the house,
yeah,
no
man,
less.
newly married Jason Poole.
And see, I
newlywed
thought he was already
Jason
back
Poole.
there, right?
Yeah. So congratulations to him and his
Yeah.
beautiful bride. Great guy, one of the greats around here for
Yes,
sure.
he is.
Along with Josh Brown and Alden Iowani and Josh Luna. Got to name them all. So, but I think going back to your point about Coach Birmingham, I don't know. Again, all due respect to UNM athletic director Eddie Nunez, I guess they had to work things out. But to me, it's a guy that I don't know. He's brought he's brought the program up again. Back in the day, Rich Allday, Vince Capelli, Jim Fregosi. There's been a lot of great Lobo coaches here, but to me, he brought the program to another level. And I think, and he always says this, right? There's more work to do, Cowboy. Always says that.
Right.
Plus, he's
Right.
a Mexican. That doesn't mean he should get the job because of that. I don't mean that, but this guy's
here's
special.
the thing. Here's the outlying problem with that whole situation. Everybody knew he was going to come back here. I mean, who else were they going to bring in? They were either going to bring him back or not have a program. There was no way that Lobo baseball was going to go unless he didn't want to come back.
Right.
They weren't going to not have him come back. But the perception from the outside, when you're recruiting and you're trying to get players to come in from all over the place, you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm hearing that they're not going to have a program. Well, they haven't signed their coach. What's going on? And then you got other people in their ear saying, hey, come to our school. They're not going to have a coach. They're not going to have a program. That stuff happens.
Sure, of course it does.
And the problem is it's been happening since about March, April of last year, when we thought the whole talk was about soccer and the other sports that they ended up axing. But baseball apparently was part of it because, I mean, I'll never forget that conversation standing on a baseball field getting ready to do a game, not involving UNM. And the fact that I used to be, and I fill in for the broadcast came up. Oh, shame they're dropping their program. It's like, what? You know,
Yeah,
I'm telling the guy, oh, you must be mistaken. No, that's the talk of the AD meetings, and I brought it up on shows here, and it makes sense. I mean, he still gets good players coming in, but I think and I know deep down inside he had better players ready to come in, and they probably got scared off.
And you know what? I think, in all fairness, that was only maybe barely. Somebody might have mentioned it. I don't think that it was ever really on the chopping block. I don't. But it might have been.
Apparently from this athletic director, it definitely was, because they have to talk about those things at the meetings, and it was real. This is back last April, and I hear about it out of state.
Yeah.
And when the guy said, oh, yeah, it's the talk of the athletic director, we were just at AD meetings last week. It was real.
Oh, no wonder the extent.
Because why would the guy tell me anything otherwise?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't, I just brought him up, and then he kind of threw in the rest.
No wonder the extension took so long then, I guess. Maybe that's why, right? Because maybe they were contemplating cutting the program.
Well, because, I mean, the thing is, this year when they finally dropped the soccer program, it came up at the Regents meetings. Oh, yeah, baseball was on the chopping block. So they admitted it, but what they're not admitting is, this was a year ago, because that's when the soccer team originally came on the chopping block. It's the same timeline.
Right.
Which is sad, because, you're talking about successful programs. I mean, the last couple of years they haven't had as much success as they've had, but successful programs. And it's just, it's sad to see, because you and I know how hard Jeremy Fishbein worked. You and I know how hard Ray Birmingham works to make that happen. They are true cherry red New Mexicans, and they try to do the best for the state and for the school. And Fishbein's the one. This is last week. It's hard to hear that. I looked on his Twitter this morning, and it said, "Well, yep, the end of the week is my last go around at UNM." So it's official, which is sad. And then you see the United,
right,
who, by the way, get a lot of UNM players. Mm-hmm. Where are they going to get players from now?
I think that's even.
You can't look at New Mexico State. They don't have a program.
There's some more even irony with that. Jeremy Fishbein's last week while the town's on fire with United.
That's what I'm saying.
Some irony there.
And I don't know if it's not good irony
No, it's
either.
not.
But I mean, and you look at one of their star players, Devin Sandoval. I mean, he was the cornerstone of some of those successful teams that they had that made runs.
Yeah, he sure was. He sure was.
And look at him now. And he's not even the top player, but he's a great player.
Yes, amongst,
He's one of the
right.
top players,
Like
but
you
I
said, they
mean,
put together a very
yeah,
good roster.
they've got some exciting players. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll take a break. Come back with more on the Sports Desk.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of.
Welcome back here to the Sports Desk. Scott Galetti along with Ed Nunez. Alden Ioane, our fine director, Jason Poole, Josh Brown, Josh Luna, all part of the broadcast each and every week as well. And you can also see the Steve Davis Show here on Proview Networks, Comcast 26 every week. One of the things I just noticed in the Journal, Kevon Frater, who's been the leading scorer in the New Mexico United's run in the U.S. Open Cup, will miss the next Cup game against Minnesota United as he has too many yellow cards.
Oh, Adam Deal did bring that up. I heard Sam Hauser, I think, talk about that, asking, no, it wasn't Adam that was on Saturday, but yeah, I did hear that. So, okay, so there's the other thing, right? When a key player is missing, team, chemistry, things like that. When you have the deck stacked against you, and maybe they don't come up with a great performance. I still think the fan base here, though, will still be strong throughout all that. And there will be up and down times, as there is for any team.
Speaking of great performances or so-so performances, have you been keeping up on the Women's World Cup?
I have been. One of the things we talked about was would they get scored on Saturday. They did. They beat Spain yesterday 2-1. This is a team that's very defensive oriented. Had shut out the previous team 13-0. I think it was Thailand. And so this is a very good U.S. women's team. Very good U.S. women's team.
But, some of the people, the naysayers after Monday's win are saying, well, they only scored on PKs and they didn't score a regular goal and all this stuff. But they grinded it out. And even some of the pundits and former players of the U.S. women's team were saying, they played horribly and still won.
Right.
so
Right.
that was their wake-up call. And now they're going to actually play the host team, France. So that ought to be kind of weird because they've had, the U.S. has had pretty much a lot of fans cheering for them. And now they're going to be the enemy.
I think, and yes, they definitely are the enemy in that game. But I think one of the things that you hit on was a grind-out victory. You're not going to have every game be 7-1 or 6-2. And if you can win grind-out games like that, even though they did score with penalty kicks, maybe it wasn't their best performance, but the bottom line is they still won. And
Did you watch the match?
I didn't. So, no, they were actually watching it at work. Some of my employees.
You didn't get a chance to watch the match? Okay, because I actually
didn't.
did get to watch the match. That was the first one I've seen, actually. And I was amazed, even though it was a grinded-out game, how many chances they had. And they couldn't put it in the net, but they had chance after chance. And this team, when they really put out the effort, they've got the defense just on their heels because they can set up plays,
right?
As well as any team that I've seen.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
They're amazing to watch because you think, oh, they're going to score. Oh, just wide. Oh, keeper makes a great save. Oh, just over the net or whatever. But, you got your 1-1 or 0-0, 0-0 games or 2-1 games where you got maybe 5 shots the entire match. Well, they were getting like 5 shots every 5 minutes.
Got a lot of swag to them, too. They do. They've got a lot of, and people criticize them for that, the opening game when they celebrated a lot. But you know what?
And they got mad when they got scored on.
Yes, they did.
They got mad when they got
talked about
scored
that.
on.
That was one of the questions. Do you think the U.S. women will be scored on? And I had said yes, they did. But their defense is outstanding. Right.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch. So, your thoughts on the Toronto Raptors winning the championship, another championship that was won, and I was little, but I go back to when the Boston Bruins beat the St. Louis Blues 4-0. That was the 3rd time in a row that the Blues had been in the Stanley Cup championship, and This year, the team that goes from last to first, which reminds me of my minor league team that I worked for, that I was the media relations director and broadcaster for. I did all the broadcast, radio, and TV, but my job was media relations.
Right.
Because we were competitors of the Coyotes and the Suns in Phoenix. For the Phoenix Mustangs, same thing. Last to first, coaching change right around the holidays and everything, and end up getting a championship. But how surprised were you? I don't know how much you kept up, if any, with the NHL, but how surprised were you with the NBA that the Raptors ended up beating the Warriors?
Well, it's funny because, I don't have a dog in the hunt because the Lakers weren't in it, but my wife and I watched my wife surprised me. She likes basketball, but she wanted
Neither
to
one
watch,
of us had a dog in the hunt,
Yeah.
either of those things. So
my wife wanted to watch every game, and we did. We watched every game. So I think if you look at what Toronto did, fired their head coach of the year, Dwayne Casey. Masai Ujiri, the general manager, brings in Kawhi Leonard, trades DeMar DeRozan, which people were a little upset about that. Nick Van Fleet is a G League signing, and
how about that guy?
How big was he?
That guy came out of nowhere to be
Huge.
if
Huge
not
for
the
them.
leader, one of the leaders. He came up with big game after big game.
Pascal Siakam, the most improved player, he got the award last night, and he played big in the finals. But I got to say, one guy that had kind of fallen off a little bit, and you're kind of wondering where he was, and really came through in the last 3 games, was Serge Ibaka with the rebounds and the defense and timely baskets. The trade for Marc Gasol, this defensive center at the year at one time, that was huge, huge. So Masai Ujiri made all the right moves as the general manager. Kawhi Leonard looking to opt out. Will he stay? That's the question. Looks like the LA Clippers are a destination. He wants to go home to Los Angeles. He won't team with AD and LeBron. They don't have the money for him anyway. So it looks like he's got a meeting set up with the Clippers. And imagine if, remember about the Clippers, okay? People forget about this. They call it a rivalry between the Lakers. It's no rivalry. And I'll say this, nothing against the Clippers, but going back to when they were the Buffalo Braves and they played in the East, they've never even been in an Eastern Conference final or a Western Conference final. But if they add Kawhi Leonard to Montrezl Harrell, to Lou Williams, they've got to Alexander the guard, to Doc Rivers the coach, to Jerry West the general manager, or a consultant anyway. That is a team that I think could really make a lot of noise.
You know what's amazing about the whole thing is the Raptors might be the first team ever to win.
Coach Bramante in the house. Keep going, Scott.
Can't miss him walking in. Can't miss Tom walking in.
Dragmeister, Steve Davis.
Yeah,
we got some all-stars in here, man.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But no, they might be the first team ever to win all 3 road games in an NBA Finals.
And
that
you know
normally
what?
doesn't happen.
Look, here's the other thing we're going to say. Now, injuries are part of. You've been around a million games, a million at the college level. You've seen a million. Pro level, you've seen them all. Now, injuries are, what I call, do you remember David Hallstrom's book, Breaks of the Game?
Yes.
So injuries are breaks of the game, man. You know what? When you're on your way to a 3rd run for a championship, you get the team's best shot every night. No one wants to see injuries. I think the one that broke my heart for Golden State was Klay Thompson. That one broke my heart. And I'm just an NBA fan, right? Not a fan of the Warriors, but when I saw that, I'm like, gosh, poor guy, man. And then Durant, right? Now, rumors or reports are that Kevin Durant is upset with the Golden State management or trainers, but he went out there. Okay?
Right.
Now, it's a shame that happened, but he wanted to make, people were questioning, why isn't he out there? Because he was injured, hurt.
Right.
Now, there's a difference between when you're injured. If you're injured, you can't play. If you're hurt, you go out there and give it, you go out there and give it a go. Those injuries happen. Would the Toronto Raptors had won if they had had a full deck? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter to me because injuries, I saw the Lakers in '83 when they got trounced by the Sixers 4-0. They were missing Norm Nixon, Bob McAdoo, and James Worthy.
Right.
Doesn't matter. Philadelphia was that strong that year.
Right.
They were going to win anyway.
Well, and then the Cavaliers against the Warriors, missing Kevin Love.
Right.
And,
breaks of the game. You've seen breaks of the game over and over. And so, you know what? Hats off to Toronto. Can they repeat? I don't know. I don't think they can.
I'll go back even further because you'll remember this series because you're old enough to, you were young at the time also. But the year after the Lakers won their first, when they won the 33 straight, they played the Knicks again. Jerry West is injured, and they had a couple other injuries.
Right.
So same thing. I mean,
73,
injuries,
they lost to
injuries
the
always
last championship for the Knicks. Knicks win 4-1.
Right.
In 73. Of course I remember that. Of course I
Yep.
do. You know, going back, this is off the subject, but you brought it up. 33 games in a row. I want you to think about that. The Heat came close by winning 27 in a row a couple of years ago.
Right.
But if you think about the 33-game win streak, they're not flying. They're flying. They're not flying first class.
They were flying commercial back then.
Think about the nutrition. Will Chamberlain said in his book, the big argument in the Los Angeles locker room was he wanted grape soda and Elgin wanted orange. They're drinking Cokes and stuff after the game. They're not drinking water. They're not even getting the best nutrition.
Right.
So think of the 33 games to me
Right.
is amazing. And I don't think that'll ever be beaten. I really don't.
No, it's funny, but it's amazing how resilient the Raptors were because they lose that game 5, and I'm watching that game, and I'm thinking they can't hit the broadside of a barn, and that was when Kevin Durant went out there, got his quick points in, like not even 10 minutes, then he got injured, but those points that he scored in the three-pointers and they got a double-digit lead, that's what won them that game because they ended up losing by 1, which, by the way, was the line which had switched from Toronto to Golden State,
Right.
which made me think, wow, how did all the experts in Vegas know it was going to be a 1-point game?
Interesting. Very interesting.
Because it was,
These
because I
lines,
sent you a
man.
text. I sent you a text that night, kind of laughingly, saying, "Wow, makes you wonder if the games are fixed, doesn't it?" Either that or they're just brilliant on their picking because just the trend of
Yeah.
that game far this way as far as deficits and. When the Raptors, the weirdest thing, the Raptors go up by 6, and there's like a minute or 2 left. And I'm watching with a couple of people, and I said, they're not going to win. And lo and behold, they lost.
Man, and you wouldn't have thought that.
No, they were
Now-
at home on a clinching game, and I said, they're going to lose. And they're
yeah.
looking at me like I'm nuts, and it's like, lo and behold, they lost. In fact, they lost that lead so fast it wasn't even funny. It's like they're down by 3, 45 seconds later.
Yeah.
It's like, where the hell did the lead go?
Well, the big scuttlebutt in that game was Toronto head coach Nick Nurse calling a timeout, which a lot of people questioned him for
Right.
afterward. But you know what? Nick Nurse did a great job with this group of Toronto Raptors. Now, if Kawhi leaves, it's a whole different story for
Right.
Toronto. If he stays, they have a chance to do some damage, I believe.
Let's take one more break here, and we will come right back on the Sports Desk.
It's the
And we're back here on the Sports Desk. I'm Scott Galetti, and Ed Nunez, as always, our co-host. Ald Niawani doing a great job, as always. We didn't put him to work with the graphics, but he came up with highlights and stuff, so, he comes up with everything.
Yeah, you know what? He's always ready. He had they were out there at the senior games last week, and they did a great job. I said Dana Childs, as I mentioned, did a lot of the track and field. I think he did it all. And then Alden Iowani and Josh Brown producing and directing. That's a lot of work out there. The
Yeah.
good thing was, though, like I said, the weather-wise for the senior games, we couldn't have asked for better weather.
Wasn't overly hot.
No. And I'll tell
It
you
was
what.
hot, but it wasn't overly hot.
Oh, man, that 94 degrees that we had about a week ago was just, oof. I don't
Yeah.
look forward to the heat like I used to when I was younger. It just pounds you when you get older. So,
Right?
yeah.
It really does. Well, let's talk about some other stuff going on. Free
There's Coach
agency.
Bramante with the power fist.
Yeah,
Gotta
he's
love
got
it.
the power fist going.
Gotta love it.
But,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott.
But no, I was just going to say, as far as, you were mentioning Kawhi, one of the things that came up just in the last couple of days about Kawhi Leonard is, the Clippers want him, he may want LA, but the Raptors are the only team that can give him the max contract. And now all of a sudden the talk is, well, he's leaning at maybe doing that.
Here's the other thing he doesn't say anything. He doesn't talk a lot.
But they've treated him really well
of course
in
they-
Toronto.
yeah,
so I
they-
think that has a lot to do with it because he wasn't getting that treatment in San Antonio.
Which is surprising.
Very surprising. But I mean, that's what we're hearing at least. But, the ownership, the management, everything has done everything to make him happy. And, they're the only one that can give him the max. And now all of a sudden, when that came up, it's like, oh, you mean all this talk about him leaving and now he might just take the max 5-year contract?
Okay, like I said, he doesn't say much. He doesn't tweet. He doesn't, you have to get insiders because he doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything. The only thing that I'll say is that
What does that remind you of? An old school player
Yeah. Which one?
who does all of them.
Yeah. Didn't-
Old school players that never talked.
but
You know,
remember,
they didn't talk about their contract. They just talked about the game.
They
They
didn't have
talked about
social
their
media.
team.
They
Yeah.
didn't have social media either. Back in the day.
But they didn't talk in the media. They didn't. You didn't see like scathing, cuts in the newspaper or whatever. I mean, everyone was, PC back then.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I think one of the things that I did read 2 years ago when he was at the All-Star game in Toronto, Kawhi Leonard, is that he doesn't like cold weather. I don't know how much of a factor that is. We know
Right.
Toronto is ice cold, bone cold, and Los Angeles, where he's from, is warm. So I don't know
Right.
how much of a factor is that. Plus, he wants to win a championship. With Toronto, they could win again if he came back with Siakam, Ibaka. They'd have to add maybe another shooter there. Van Fleet is he Van Fleet, is he going to have another season like
Right.
he did? They'll
Right.
expect more. The defense will concentrate on him more. Kyle Lowry had a good year. So if he comes back, are they the favorites to win? It was funny to me before that Anthony Davis trade. The Lakers were 5-1 odds to win it, and I'm like, Milwaukee being number one, and even before that trade was made. So you mentioned
Right.
odds. Somebody knew something about something because
Right.
how in the heck are they 5-1 with that roster before the trade? Now, here's my thing about the Laker trade. Now, I'm a Laker fan since '72, and I've seen several Laker greats go through there: West, Wilt, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe.
Wait, what
Magic.
year?
'72.
Front runner.
No, I was a kid, man. I was a kid, but I stayed
That
through the
happened to
bad.
be the year
Yeah,
the
I stayed through the bad
33-0.
years too, though. I
Yeah.
stayed through the bad years. So I think, for me, I wouldn't go for another big contract like Kyrie. I would go to spread the money around to maybe a J.J. Redick, a Danny Green, spread that money out because
J.J.
if-
Redick's name's come up a lot, actually.
he wants a lot of money, and they've mentioned also the return of D'Angelo Russell, which surprised me, my son and I a little bit. They traded him.
He left on so bad
Yeah.
terms, it is not even funny.
No,
so
he
when
did.
his name came up a few days ago, or when I first heard it, I'm thinking, there's no way.
Yeah, but now Magic's gone. Magic, who said,
No,
hey,
but just the perception
Right.
and just the media. I mean, everyone asking him questions over and over. You know how that works. I mean, he's going to be associated with what happened before as opposed to what's happening now. So, I mean,
Well-
that's just yeah.
if you look at it though,
It could work, but I mean, it seems like a train wreck waiting to happen.
he went and became an all-star in Brooklyn, right?
I know.
Now they're
I know he did.
supposedly talking about offering him $20 million. So we'll see. I'll tell you this: I don't see that happening. I don't. But it was even funny to me that was even mentioned that today's NBA. Now the NBA has done a great job of keeping people's eyes on the league, even though they're not playing. Right? The season ended about a week or two ago. Then there was the draft, that huge trade. Now everybody wants to know where Kawhi's going. Free agency starts this Sunday. So I think the NBA has done an outstanding job of keeping the focus on their league.
Well, here's the problem. The focus, I brought this up. We had a beat writer who was actually at the press conference for the number one pick. Zion Williamson. So he had just finished the press conference on Friday, and we had him on ESPN Radio 101.7. Sam Hauser and I were filling in for Jim. And so I got the guest, and I asked him, because, I mean, the Pelicans are owned by the same group that owns the Saints. So I asked him, well, you got a league, you got a team in town, and he kind of brought up a great point because, he said, well, Drew Brees, might be the face of the franchise, but, there's other guys, and, he might be the only one. It's like synonymous with the team or whatever. But I said, you got a guy in town who's known for your city. You say Drew Brees, you think New Orleans Saints. You say LeBron James, oh, yeah, he's played for this team, this team, this team.
That's right.
It's like, you think of Jerry West, you think of the Lakers.
Yeah.
You think of Wilt Chamberlain. Well, he played for Philadelphia, but you think of him, for either Philadelphia, and then when the Lakers moved to L.A., you think of him as the Lakers.
He won a championship with LA, so you would think
Because
of that.
he never played for the Minneapolis Lakers,
No.
I don't believe,
No,
but
he
he played
didn't.
for the LA Lakers after they moved. So, so you think of certain players with their teams, but now it's like, okay, well, which team is this guy? Oh, yeah. Or sometimes, like this year, I didn't really follow the NBA as much as I have in the past. And I'll look at a player and I'll go, I didn't know he was on that team. I thought he was on this team. It's like you lose track. And then to add insult to injury, they have the draft last week, and the number 4 pick, which went from the Lakers to New Orleans to Atlanta, they have him come out in the Lakers hat.
Different hats. So they talked about that too.
Well, I saw complaints about that people were complaining about the fact that more people had wrong hats than the right hats. And that's true if you think about it.
Right.
It's like the first round out of 30 or 33 or whatever it was, say 30 teams. Out of 30 teams, maybe there was about 21 wrong hats.
Which never happened before.
No.
Never.
I mean,
Some of these
like in
trades
the
weren't final.
NFL, see, the thing that I like about like in the NFL, whoa, with the first pick, they've just traded to, the Miami Dolphins have just traded the number 1 pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers or whatever, and then
Right.
you know where the team, then you know.
That had never happened before.
Now you know who's going, and then and then what's funny is NBA.com actually had it correctly with Atlanta, but then they got so much heat, and I think the upper management said we got to change it to to before the trades go into effect, and they put the Laker logo, and then ESPN.com still had it Atlanta.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
Yeah.
just silly. But my point is, NBA.com changed it after the brouhaha, because after it happened, it's like, well, we got to keep with the company line, even though it might be wrong. We're putting it back at the Lakers, because that morning, Friday morning, I had looked and it said the Hawks, and then that afternoon, when we were talking about it on the show, it had gone to the Lakers.
Yeah, it was a mess.
And then I
That
looked
part
at
was a mess.
ESPN.com, and lo and behold, that was the only one that still had it as Atlanta.
Yeah, that part was a mess.
It's
I
like,
hadn't
how do
seen
you
that
know? But when you think about it, Ed, all these players that are going to different teams, no one knows which team they're going to now, because logos have been changed,
Right.
and stories have been changed, and pecking order has been changed. So we have a couple minutes left here on the program. What would you like to talk about?
Well, you know what? Lobo football's coming up, and I keep hearing on the radio. And my wife said she saw a Lobo football commercial. I didn't see it, so I'm she liked it. And my wife isn't the hugest football fan, but I'm kind of anxious to see their new commercial. And 3-9.
Well, I know they've got some stuff online. They've got stuff on golobos.com, which looks pretty slick, actually. So I think they're working on improving the image of the marketing.
It's right around the corner. Their first game of the season. It'll be a while, but back-to-back 3-9 seasons. Hopefully they do. Again, I got to say this, and I was telling my wife this again. If it's a football town, like Bob Brown said, you're there at 2, you're there at 4, you're there at 6, 8 o'clock, no matter when
Right.
the time is. I plan to be out there supporting them like I always have since 1970. So I just hope the coach.
I'm going to tell you
has a
this
better
right now,
season.
and yeah, it's USC. I know USC fans don't like Friday night games, because that's a high school town.
Oh, that's right.
They don't like Friday games, but guess what? They're still out there 80, 90,000.
Strong.
And back when I covered them, back before Pete Carroll went to town, they were in the dumps where they were drawing 35,000. Before they went back up again. So things got bad, and then all of a sudden they brought in the right coach and kept the system and got things up. But that's what you got to do. And when you're in a smaller town like Albuquerque, it's even harder.
Yeah, I think about it. When you mention USC, and I think of John Robinson, the student body left, student body right, Charles White, Ricky Bell, O.J. Simpson.
Right.
Those are some memories, man. And then the band. Oh,
Yeah.
man, who doesn't want to hear that USC band?
Right.
Wow. So, yeah.
Local band's pretty doggone good,
Oh, they
too,
are.
though.
They are very good. You're right.
Yeah,
Very good.
it's actually one of my favorite bands.
Yeah, no, the band music makes such a difference at any game.
It does. Yeah. Hate to admit it, though, and I know you'll hate to admit it, the Aggie band's pretty good.
No, I'll give them their props. They are.
Right.
They are.
Yeah. That'll be the end of the props for the Aggies. Although Pascal Siakam, you got to say
Most improved
congratulations
player.
to that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, what he did. That'll do it for the show here. Alden Iowani, our fine director, the whole crew, Steve Davis, he's Ed Nunez, I'm Scott Galetti. We will see you next week on the Sports Desk. Bye.